Apparently, Formula One's listed as a TV series on IMDb. And this weekend, it's time for season 7, episode 6, which does not make any sense. But what does make sense is episode number 1435 of Formula One. That's what we're going to get to see. Episode 1435 is what IMDb says. I don't know if this number is correct or not, Sundaram. Is it race number 1437? 35? What is
Definitely
it?
not. We are a bit over 1100 if I'm not wrong. But 1400 seems way off.
It is number 1144. So if you're a Perez and Hamilton fan, this is 1144th race. And I remember this because I've been preparing for my Viaplay studio show. And I'm like, and typically this number is one more or one less than the actual one. Because Sundaram always corrects me. Actually, it's 1143 or it's 1145. What is the actual number?
You want me to tell you right away? I can tell you. We've
Yes.
had 1143 races so far. So the
So it
next one.
This is 1144.
I got it right. Okie doke. Not bad.
But why would
Interesting.
someone be a Hamilton and a Perez fan, especially after what happened in 2021 Abu Dhabi? That's very odd to find. So if you are a Perez and a Hamilton fan, write to us. We will get
Well,
to know you.
maybe they're a fan of the second McLaren seat from 2012 to 2013. Maybe they just maybe that's one common thread.
Oh
And
yes,
this
actually.
is a common thread to talk about because the second McLaren seat has been the talking point of discussion in court recently. I'm not even kidding you. It's been a talking point in court. Why has that been the case? We will tell you all of that. We will tell you all of that on the USGP preview of the Inside Line F1 podcast. Make sure you subscribe to us, folks. Make sure you're following us on YouTube and on Instagram for all the crazy content we're putting out, including Gunther Steiner telling us his ultimate Formula One driver, which we also then deliberated on and made our own list. But guys, starting off, we need to go to court because McLaren went to court. And McLaren went to court over an IndyCar deal. So that's my way of bringing an IndyCar into an F1 episode yet again. But
Always.
they did go to court, and that was for suing Alex Palou. Remember the same guy who we made a shot about as, I think, the best driver in the world right now, not to be in Formula One? That guy. McLaren said, well, he thinks he was misled into getting an F1 seat. We don't think that's the case. As a result, he breached our contract and we got a $20 million loss in sponsorship revenue. Palo says, I was misled into believing that instead of Piastri, it would have been me signed for McLaren in 2023. But the big revelation of it all, Kunal,
Is that Oscar Piastri was not signed by Zach Brown, was not signed by Andrea Stella, the two leaders leading McLaren into their World Championship wins. He was signed by Andrea Seidel, the previous team principal who was let go a couple of seasons ago, which probably explains why everyone rules are biased against Piastri, which probably explains why there's this whole social media rage on how Zach Brown is always supporting Lando Norris. And of course, Brown is still legally bound to Lando Norris as his manager, was one of the directors of Quadrant as well. But yeah, this weekend is when the real Oscar Piastri needs to stand up, especially with so many revelations from that court case. Does he feel like the ignored child in the papaya garages? What do you guys think?
it's obvious, no, Sundaram. It's obvious that there's some favoritism off the track. On the track is a separate story. I think McLaren, up until recently, have been very fair. But off the track, it's very evident that there is a clear favorite. And I wonder, my only insight on this is, how can Mark Webber avoid his client becoming exactly what Mark Webber was at Red Bull Racing?
Oof. It's very difficult to imagine an Oscar Piastri, someone of his caliber and the way he's delivered this year, to be to be taken in the same breath as how Mark Webber was back in Red Bull. And all the conspiracy theories that's been coming up in the last couple of weeks is really feeding into that narrative that probably Oscar Piastri is the ignored child. And remember, guys, he's still the championship leader. He's very likely the more popular choice to win this year's title for McLaren. But like you correctly said, Somal, there do seem signs that maybe there is one preferred child off track. And for for various reasons, because Lando Norris has been a part of this team for a very long time, since 2018, 2017. So quite clear there must be some a preference, some emotional connection that Zach has towards Lando as well. But yeah, it's all blowing up. The one team that's made so many court visits over the last 2 decades is McLaren. It's not any of the other teams, unfortunately. It's McLaren time and again. Haas has made a few visits to the court. Caterham has made a few visits to the court, but it's McLaren, and in this little gap between races, of all teams, it's McLaren giving us all this tea. So it's absolutely hilarious, and it's quite shocking to see what's going down.
Zach Brown left the World Championship celebrations early so he could be in London for the Alex Palou case, right? Can you imagine?
Really?
He did. And can you imagine the race after they become World Constructors Championship? What are we going to talk about? Are they really in a relationship with Oscar Piastri? What do you call this as Gen Z? Samuel, what is the word you use? Situationship? Was that the word?
No, this doesn't classify as a situationship. Any good situationship, if it's really good, will never have any written contract about it. And that seemed to be the case between Alex Palou and his F1 seat. It was seemingly a situationship, one that he believed existed, but one McLaren believed didn't exist. And at the end, we all know what's happening. But the bias, Kunal, there is evidently a bias in McLaren that you found out. And it's not about the management.
It's not about the management. No, the bias is actually in which driver gets that second stop at McLaren. Typically, it's the leading driver who selects whether he gets to pit first or second. But whoever leads this weekend will remember that in the last three races, the driver who has stopped second has been serviced the slow pit stop, right? It happened to Lando Norris in Monza, led to a papaya mess. It happened to Oscar Piastri in Singapore. In both cases, those drivers were the second ones to pit. So remember to watch out. Does McLaren have a second pit stop problem? What do you guys think?
I think McLaren generally has a pit stop problem, which they themselves admitted to, which, I mean, until this was actually a topic of discussion, I felt this was not something that was really serious. But turns out
Hmm.
it is. McLaren actually have a hardware issue with their wheel guns. They've actually upgraded supposedly to better wheel guns. I really don't get it as an upgrade, because when you've already given three of the quickest pit stops of the season, what could possibly make you change those wheel guns or that hardware? So supposedly they're using new wheel guns, which is a little difficult for their pit crew to get acclimatized to, and whatever solutions they have for it will not be short term, but will be addressed next year. So keep an eye out for more probably slower pit stops through the rest of the season.
And will pit stops actually define the drivers' championship this year then? Because Sundaram, what you brought up is so important. It's not important to have the fastest pit stops. Those three
Yeah.
pit stops you're talking of were all 1.9-second pit stops, right? But do we remember them? No. What we actually remember is McLaren's lack of consistency. And that's what
Yeah.
most teams go for. Can you consistently deliver a 2.2-second pit stop rather than have three 1.9s and then go straight to 5.5 pit stops? That's what teams look for.
Exactly. And that's what we're hoping for this weekend. Will they be on the very edge of performance? Because I know one person very clearly will be, and that's Max Verstappen, three-time winner at Circuit of the Americas, absolutely bullied Lando Norris last year here at this very track, rewrote what all of us thought about track limits and restarted a discussion about it, which we shall get to in a second. But Max is a conqueror at the Circuit of the Americas. He is just so good. And what really makes me believe that he will be winning one race this weekend, some race, we'll find out which one in a second, because of course we also have the sprint race this weekend as well. What makes me believe that Max Verstappen will win one race this weekend is a combination of the fact that he's been ruthless here. He bullied Lando last year, and also the fact that it suddenly works, Sundaram, the Red Bull racing car. They found a way to logically make it more rideable. And because it's more rideable under multiple, sorry, MotoGP lingo, drivable under multiple circumstances, it's just been more consistent across all the drivers.
Yeah, and I think one of the main hurdles which everyone was talking about pre-Singapore was that Singapore race. In that layout with those sort of conditions that were there, would Red Bull thrive? And to be honest, they did thrive. Um, So much so that Max Verstappen finished ahead of both McLaren drivers, even though he didn't shave off a huge margin when it came to points. But eventually, the narrative was they did finish ahead of both McLarens, so which is a positive sign for this weekend. What are the characteristics that favor Red Bull? Once again, high speed corners. They've thrived at those circuits, but then again, Austin's going to be a hot circuit. So, will tire deck be a big topic? Yes, of course it will be. But signs are positive for Red Bull. But is Max Verstappen still in the title fight? I don't think so. But good signs for Red Bull.
And what you mentioned, Max Verstappen is actually outqualified and outraced the two McLaren drivers in the last three races. To me, that is what qualifies already as a title fight. But this whole point about weather. Finally, we are going to get to see if McLaren still hold the edge to the competition when it comes to managing rear tire temperatures, because it's going to be 33, 34 degrees centigrade this weekend at the Circuit of the Americas. Will McLaren finally be at a circuit where they actually have a performance advantage? I hope not, because I want to see competition. I want to see whether this is what we call the turning point of the 2025 Formula One season. Remember, it's the last quarter of the races, 6 races to go. But this last quarter also has more points than any other quarter before, Somil, because we've got 6 Grand Prix and 3 sprint races to go. And I think that's about 170 plus points that already remain. So that turning point has to come. And hence, all the jokes aside, all the legal stuff, all the media aside, the real Oscar Piastri has to stand up, because in Baku and in Singapore, he did not drive like a driver who's leading the Drivers' Championship and who has, over the course of these 18 races, been the better driver most of the races.
Yeah. And what will help Oscar Piastri out is the fact that his teammate is going to soon become the target of Max Verstappen's revenge. Because you spotted that well, Kunal. Max Verstappen said he will get back at Lando Norris at some point, and that his impeding, or rather apparent impeding, at the Singapore GPQ3 session will be remembered. I wonder if revenge will be served hot the very next time Formula One goes racing.
I think it will. I think it will. Why don't I quiz you guys? Okay, this is one of the 3 quizzes
Okay.
I promised you all. How do you guys think will Max Verstappen get his revenge at COTA?
I know.
Go for it.
Straight as last year. Make it look as if you're behind, and because Kota has a late apex, find your way ahead at the late apex, push the other driver wide, don't get a penalty, don't let them overtake you. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Or Verstappen could do even better. He could do what he did at the start of last year's race, which is take Lando Norris absolutely wide and run him out of turn one so that he has no chance of fighting for the win. And that, my friends, is how you get Ferrari's last one too.
For
I think
me,
if go on.
I think for me it's a little different because see, firstly we know that Max does not forget, Max does not forgive, and I don't think so. He's going to serve revenge that quickly in court. I think it's going to happen in the very next the race after that, Mexico. If you remember what happened between Max and Lando at that track, and the way Lando was pushed around, I think he's going to serve
Hmm.
Lando a reminder of what happened last year, even if it costs Max a couple of penalty points or a time penalty, he will eventually give that revenge at some point, and I think that's going to happen at Mexico, not in Kota.
I get a feeling it's happening here. I get a feeling it's exactly at the start. Especially, and I'll tell you what will happen, especially if Oscar Piastri is not on the front row. Okay. What Max is going to do is he's going to barge his way through, do what he did last year at turn one and then let Oscar slip by. I just get a feeling. Samuel, you mentioned Max Verstappen bullied Lando Norris here last year. Tell me one race when Lando Norris has bullied Max Verstappen, or for that matter, bullied any driver on the grid.
Well, Lando's a good person. He is not into bullying. Bullying is bad, guys.
Not
Haven't
on
you guys
track.
learned in school
On,
that
on track. On
no,
track. If you're
bullying is
Oscar
bad?
Piastri bullied Charles Leclerc at Baku last year. You agree or you disagree? Good guy, great guy.
I think he matched Leclerc, but got it at the right moment. Yeah, yeah. Not
So
bullied. That's not
yeah,
bullied.
come on.
But
Okay. Anyway, so I'm just wondering if Lando's ever going to bully ever any driver. And
no, he's nice, Kunal.
Sundaram
Why do you
mentioned
want people to bully other people?
I want bullying on track. I'm sorry. I mean, the Perez Hamilton reference I made at the very first minute when Sundaram said, "How would you be a Perez and a Hamilton fan?" was of the very fact that Perez managed to bully Hamilton not once, but at least 3 or 4 times. I remember Turkey. I remember Abu Dhabi, of course,
Yeah.
and I'm sure if we pick a couple of other races, I'm sure we'll remember. But yeah, so please go, Lando, bully a driver, bully Max Verstappen. We'd love to see how that happens because there's a very good reason or a very good chance. Revenge will be paid back with interest. And the interest will be more because the last race was 14 days ago, not 7.
Yeah. And what's the worst that can happen? 5-second penalty to Esteban Ocon. Walk away.
Oh god, that was Austria 2022 or 23. My goodness, that joke is still relevant.
Penalties keep on. What didn't he get like 1,000 track limit obstructions or
Yeah,
something that day?
yeah.
Yeah, it's mental. But I think this is essential for the season. It's going to be an important race because of the amount of time left in the championship, and also because of the kind of races coming up. Because COTA is a sprint, and of course you've got the Grand Prix as well. Then we've got a couple of outliers coming up later, not in any order, but Interlagos is coming up. Mexico City is a very, very different circuit to what you see. And at most of these conventional circuits, it's all about how much more can you maximize it. And COTA is going to be a great opportunity to get multiple points on more than the usual. Basically, is what I mean to say here. Let's just see which McLaren driver can actually pick it up and take the momentum forward into the final third of the season. But guys, can I just say, I am absolutely amazed by this circuit. I really am. Because just take a look at the number of different championships or different classes of vehicles that the Circuit of the America has hosted. Formula One, IndyCar, NASCAR trucks, World Rallycross Championships, the X Games. They had the X Games. They had skateboarders and freestyle motocross bikes flying on the front stretch. And that's not all. They've had sports cars as well. They've had touring cars as well. They've had MotoGP as well. They've had super bikes as well. I am amazed at what this circuit can. They even had stadium super trucks. They had those flying trucks that you see flying like 25 feet up in the air. Even they raced in the Circuit of the Americas. And I can't believe, Kunal, that this sort of variation and this sort of versatility has been achieved by a racetrack that's now still under 15 years old. I don't think there's been any more successful racing facility ever been made since it was built. Circuit of the Americas has been the best since it's been launched.
It has, and it's got the most American label to it. Modern classic.
Yeah.
That's what everyone's going to call it this race weekend, and that could very well be your drinking game, given that Friday and Saturday are sprint race, sprint qualifying, and the likes. But I love the circuit. I love for the fact that it out of the 3 races in the Americas, and America actually has like 12 different venues that have hosted Formula One, which in itself is a record. This is a
You want to
70th
count?
race. Which one?
You want to count? Like the 12?
You know them. Okay, let's go for it. Caesar's Palace, Las
Yeah.
Vegas, Miami,
Hmm.
COTA, Indianapolis, Watkins Glen,
Hmm.
Sebring,
Sebring.
Good one.
That's 7,
Detroit,
8.
Dallas.
Dallas. Oh, what are the other 3?
Did we do Indianapolis?
We did.
We did Indianapolis. Miami.
Oh, now we
Vegas.
get to the tricky bit. You guys are missing Long Beach. How do you miss Long Beach?
That's 10. We still have 2
That's
to go.
impossible. You can't miss the Long Beach. Oh, ah.
Daytona.
Daytona has never had a Formula One race.
Yeah. No. Come on, Harsha. You
Is
just. No.
Is it?
Has it?
Phoenix, Arizona, the hot circuit, the place where the
So that's
barriers were also-
11. Laguna Seca has that? No, I don't think
No,
Laguna
no,
Seca's had.
Laguna's
No,
never.
I would have loved to see a Formula One car go through the corkscrew. Although Marc Genet in the Ferrari has done a track day out there, but yeah, which is the 12th elusive
Riverside
one?
International Raceway.
Riverside.
That's what we are recording on. How could we not know that? We are recording.
Yeah. Do they even race at Riverside anymore?
Hmm.
I don't. uh,
Yeah.
No, I don't know. No, no. But
And
we got there.
we got there, and since we're doing comments, and we I know we moved on, but Uttara has a great comment. Lando as a whole team for bullying purposes, and wow, what a wonderful one. Okay.
Ooh, wow.
Yes, on to Circuit of the Americas. It's the most American name or the American label, modern classic. It's like Donald Trump probably came up with this. But what I love about there are two things I love about the circuit is first, it's picked some of the best corners from around the world and just put it on that 900 acres of land it's got, because you've got turns 3 to 6 high speed stuff where the Red Bulls should be quick, which is
Yeah.
Maggots and Beckett's from Silverstone. Turns 12 to 15 is the Hockenheim Stadium section. I used to love that, even though the old Hockenheim was great. And turn 16, 17, 18, my favorite is the Istanbul's turn 8, but in the other direction, and which is where we've seen some beautiful racing happen. So that's one of the things I love about Circuit of the Americas. The second is it allows for a lot of overtaking. It allows for a lot of different lines through all the corners. So how you extract lap time, back and defend, drivers are able to take different lines, and that's what makes overtaking a treat, or racing a treat out here. And if overtaking is what you're watching racing for, we could all be in for a double treat this weekend.
And that was the case last year, Sundaram, where so many battles were seen. Lando versus Max, George versus Bottas. Uh, and those are just the two highlight ones that actually had track limits discussions. And there were millions that I just can't even remember. I'm exaggerating when I say millions, but it literally felt like it because every other lap, there was something or the other happening. But the crucial point of discussion is track limits. And the way I see it is, if you had to grade track limits as colors, sorry, let's do this again. If you had to grade circuits as colors based on track limits, Circuit of the Americas would be a solid grade. Because do you remember George Russell's penalty on Valtteri Bottas last time? They were both equal, neck and neck at the late apex, let's importantly remember, at turn number 12. When that happened, it was so hard to tell who was ahead. And ultimately, the stewards said that George Russell gets the penalty because since they were both equal and Russell pushed Bottas wide, that's not allowed. And so he gets a penalty. But Max very critically was just ahead of Lando by, I mean, literally millimeters. Both of them went out and Max was able to retain it. So have you found your way to wrap your head around track limits over the last 12 months at Circuit of the Americas?
No, it's one of those circuits I think is going to be one of the most difficult venues for the stewards. When you say track limits, you talk about Austria, you sometimes talk about Imola and the likes, but this is a venue where battling between two drivers can actually take you off track. And many times you'd often wonder who's ahead, who's behind, who's earned the right to that corner, and does that person deserve a 5 second or a 10 second penalty? I mean, even if you pull out some of the most iconic races or the iconic battles in at COTA, you would often see Max Verstappen versus Kimi Raikkonen at that very bend that we see around. That's very similar to Istanbul Park. So it's going to be one of those weekends where track limits going to be spoken about a lot, and a lot of drivers will exploit the rule book and see how well they actually understand the rule book as well. And like Kunal said, this is a track that allows for so many different racing lines through and through, even on the straights, even on the other sections as well. I actually feel that the next three races are going to be blockbuster races, and the last three
Yeah.
may not be as entertaining because whenever you come to a Kota or a Mexico or even an Interlagos, you often see blockbuster races. Las Vegas, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi might turn out to be more straightforward. So if anyone's tuning into Formula One right now at this time of the year, keep an eye out for the next three races.
I have another quiz for you guys, right? And the quiz is first, I'm going to deliver a fact. COTA is actually a Tilkedrome, and I think it's one of the best Herman Tilke designed circuits ever.
Come
On
on,
the
man. Are we giving credit to Herman Tilke for this track, especially after he just listed out 5 different circuits that he's probably taken inspiration from?
Well,
well,
it's an all-star.
what does that
Yeah.
mean?
And all, I mean, it's a very American concept. It's the best of the
Yeah,
very best, all in one. So,
which is also very American, right? You just grab things from around the world, mix it up, and say "Made in America." Sorry for all the American fans, just putting it out there. But so the question, so Tilkedrome, which is one of the it's usually a negative way to classify a circuit, which is great facilities but boring racing. COTA is great facilities but very exciting racing. And again, will we see about 400,000 record attendance this weekend? That's what I'm also going for. But the quiz is, there are 3 other tilkedromes on the current calendar. Let's start naming them.
China.
Shanghai,
Okay,
Yas
that's one.
Marina.
Yes, Marina.
The fourth one is the most exciting.
No,
or
one sec. What circuit has a very long straight? Doesn't Singapore
Mexico.
technically count as one
No,
because he
Mexico
helped
doesn't.
design it?
No,
No, one
Mexico
second.
isn't it. Mexico's a long straight. Yeah. Okay, let me just give it to you because there's one more quiz for you
One
guys.
sec, one sec, one sec, one sec. Australia.
No.
You need to go as a clue.
Bahrain,
Kunal.
Bahrain,
Yes,
Bahrain's
it
a
is.
tilkedrome. Of
Bahrain,
course it
yeah.
is. What
It-
are we
I
saying?
should've known
Bahrain's a
that.
Yes.
tilkedrome.
So that
How did you
that's-
not get it, Sundaram? What the hell? You were there when it was made.
I thought of the first race. I thought of China, then I thought about Abu Dhabi, and I missed the rest.
Okay, so not in Europe.
Yes, but it also another characteristic of the circuit, and this used to be one of those things in the past, like, oh, it's
Sorry,
an
but are we
antique.
missing out on one?
No, that's it. No, there's Shanghai, there's Abu Dhabi, there's Bahrain, and then there is
There's no
COTA.
Sepang. There's no Sepang. There's
Oh,
no
we
Turkey.
survived.
There's no Buddh. No, you got it all. Yes.
Oh, we survived the tilkedrome era. Nice. 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 Sorry, you
But-
were saying.
Yes. So I remember in the past there used to be this thing. Oh, it's an anti-clockwise circuit, and the drivers will have their necks on, pulled on the other side, and they'll be tested. But now we have one of 8 anti-clockwise circuits on the calendar, which means 1/3 of the circuits are anti-clockwise. Let's list them all out.
Oh God.
I'll go with the
Let me
first one.
It's hilarious, Kunal, you say this because literally last week I was having a discussion, wasn't it with you, Sundaram, at the Indian Racing League about what the difference between a clockwise and an anti-clockwise circuit is, and I
Yes.
just couldn't for the life of me figure out what it.
That's a great point. You enter the first corner turning left, it's anti-clockwise.
No, is it?
No, no. not
Coimbatore
necessarily.
turn number 1 is also left, but it's not anti-clock. Exact same question, exact same statement.
It's-
Please,
Coimbatore
Sundaram.
turn number 1 is a right-hander, or
Oh,
maybe
it's a
that's the old
left-hander.
layout. Maybe they've changed the layout, but okay. Or
A
is it
good
the
way to
pit
look
lane?
at it. A good way to look at it is where the rest of the track or where the back straight is in comparison to the main straight. Don't look at the first corner.
No, I don't know if is it that easy?
Yeah.
Oh, chat,
My
chat,
goodness.
chat. What chat? How do you explain an anti-clockwise circuit? Like,
Okay. Because if you look at it, let's do the anti-clockwise circuits. Okay, Jeddah. Turn-
Jeddah's also Tilke, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jeddah can't be Tilke. No.
Jeddah is Tilke.
Son.
Was it his son? It was his son,
His
I
son.
think. So
It
it
was
was
his
cast
son.
in Tilke. Cast in Tilke.
Okay.
Still Tilke
Okay.
nonetheless.
Okay. But let's list down the anti-clockwise circuits and see if there's a trend in that, right? Because there is Jeddah, turn number 1 is turning left. There is Imola, turn number 1 is turning left. What else do you guys got? There's
Paulo.
Sao Paulo,
Singapore.
turn number 1 is left. Singapore, turn 1 is left.
Singapore's also Tilke, actually.
Yeah.
Well, Harsh, is it Harsh or Harsha? I think they've come up with the best comment. Basically, the pit lane of the inner line is anti-clock, but that is the entire question, my friend. What is an anti-clock in this case? Is it by the like? I know we
Baku.
know. We're just finding it hard to articulate. It's
Baku, turn 1 is left again, right?
But
Miami,
interestingly,
is
in
turn
Imola,
1
the
is
pit
turn
lane's
1
on-
is right, no?
is right.
Miami
Yeah.
turn 1 is right. So that's
See, Miami
it
turn 1
turns-
is right and the pit lane's on the right. Whereas in Imola, it turns left and the pit lane's still on the right. So it's not always about the pit lane.
so wait one sec. Okay, we're confusing it. Okay, this so the 8 anti-clockwise circuits. We know it's COTA. We said it's Jeddah. We said it's Miami. We said Imola,
Baku,
Baku, Singapore, Interlagos,
Interlagos.
Las Vegas,
Pit lane's on the left in all of these cases.
and Yas Marina.
Yes, Marina. Pit
There we
lane's on
go.
the
right, pit lane's on the right. So how is Coimbatore not clockwise?
I'll show you. I'll
How's
tell
it
you the
not
next time.
anti-clockwise?
I'll
It's-
tell you the next time.
It's guys, if you can explain us what the difference between clockwise and anti-clockwise is, we'd really appreciate it. There's common trends. Sundaram has found a good way to
The
articulate
simple
it.
point is, if there's a main straight, where does the rest of the racing happen? take the main straight. If the rest of the racing happens towards its right, it's clockwise. If the rest of the racing happens towards its left, it's anti-clockwise. Simple as that.
But that's exactly my point, right? To go on the left, your first corner has to turn left.
That's just the first corner, but the
But
rest
that's
of the
only,
racing.
but for the 7 out of the 8, except for Miami where turn 1 is on the right and then everything goes left after that, all the others have turn 1 turning left. But yeah,
Exactly.
that's a good way to look at it. Okay, are we going to
Generally.
move on
Yes,
to?
we should.
Generally.
Okay,
Yeah,
your guy
let's
says
take a
we the good boy.
clockwise turn.
Okay, yes,
Let's
let's
take
take.
an anti-clockwise turn into talking about a driver who's actually won recently at an anti-clockwise circuit. Guys, why is George Russell's contract extension not announced? Like, what are they discussing now? Surely PR dates and all that stuff is a big part of it, and how much time he spends. But I feel the most important thing going on here is how long the contract should be. And my only question here is, why is there even a debate? Hand the dude a 5-year deal. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't
5-year
you
deal.
guys?
He,
What's the silence all about? What are you guys contemplating?
I get a
See,
feeling. Sorry,
go on, go on.
I get a feeling the delay in announcement is purely for Netflix reasons. Period. I think everything is signed, everything is done and dusted. They're going to time it. They're going to build this in Drive to Survive next year to say, look, he was winning, but he had to wait till the very last race of the season for a contract. That's what the new kid on the block did. All that, all that. I think it's Netflix reasons. I think everything is signed. I mean, are we trying to say Mercedes is going blind into 2027?
No chance.
No, no
No
chance. And
chance.
I think the only reason why this is probably being delayed is the length of the contract. Because when earlier on there were rumors that Max Verstappen could possibly be an option for 2026, yes, Toto Wolff tried and flirted around it a little. But once it was evident that he's not going to be in a Mercedes, it was a no-brainer that it's going to be George and Kimi. But then there's also an option. The new regulations come in next year, and everyone's going to be seeing which is a good spot to be racing at in 2027. So if Toto is not getting Max for 2026, the other thing that he would like to do is get Max for 2027. So I think the only thing that's delaying this situation is George not getting a long enough deal. And everyone's already been talking about the fact that Mercedes might have the best engines going into the new era. So he's basically trying to safeguard himself and not have a repeat of what happened with Carlos Sainz all of a sudden. So that's the only thing. Would George Russell want a 1-on-1+1 deal? No, he'd probably prefer at least a 2 or 3 year deal with Mercedes.
Maybe by that time, Cadillac will be a strong force. I'm not saying that George needs to go to Cadillac. I'm just wondering, by the time George Russell has his not near future, like proper future determined, who do you guys think will be the leading American team or the most popular American team? Who do you guys think will be the most popular or the leading American team by 2028? Cadillac, Haas, where are we guys going? Or even this weekend, which American team will be spoken about more, Cadillac or Haas?
I think that is the brilliant question, right? That this weekend, which is going to be the most popular team? And I think Cadillac, even though they're not racing, will be going all out to get that fan sentiment coming their way. But your
Hmm.
question about 2027, 2028, Somil, it all depends which team is going to be the stronger American Formula One team, right? And when I say it all depends, is what does Gene Haas want to do? Does he want his legacy to be a lower midfield team, which is what they've been in their 10 years of racing? Or does he want to say, I'm going to have some bold moves and I'm going to try and get Christian Horner as a co-owner? I will sell some shares, make a lot of money, but I will give somebody that right that might to take me to the front, which is what Christian Horner did with Red Bull Racing, right? I believe Haas should not let that Horner option go past. The only challenge is if that does happen, I don't think it'll be called the Haas F1 team. It will be called the Horner Grand Prix team, backed
Honor
by
Grand Prix.
Toyota.
Honor Grand Prix. That's
Yeah,
a terrible name.
why
Yeah,
not? But
actually.
that's what he wants. He wants his name. He wants his name out there. He doesn't want to do what happened to Ross Brawn and Ron Dennis's of the world of that. He wants to do what Franco Williams did. He wants his name out there, which is why the whole Ferrari rumors don't make sense unless Ferrari is actually giving him a stake out there. Christian Horner wants to be a team boss. That was the one thing in Toto Wolff he hated the most. And that's what I think Haas should do, should tempt him, should bring Christian Horner on board, should get a works partnership with Toyota, and then just not call the team Haas. That's what's going to happen.
Interesting. I actually like that take. But I was actually just pulling up Haas's drivers right now because I was often wondering, in the last 10 years, have they ever fielded an American driver? And I was just trying to check if they've ever done that. And I don't think so, at least from the data that
No,
I
they
have.
haven't. No.
Never even in a free practice session. So
Yeah.
I think that's an opportunity missed, being the only American team on the grid. They've never gone all out in terms of labeling themselves as the true American team. And surely they might have been handicapped when it comes to finances and everything. But to answer your question of which will be the more popular American team by 2028, I think it's going to be Cadillac. They'll probably have deeper pockets. They have the perfect driver combination of a Valtteri Bottas and a Sergio Perez, both very loved drivers and in that region as well. And they also have a test or a reserve driver in Colton Herta. So they're doing everything to actually call themselves the true American F1 team. And I think they
No.
are going to be the more popular one in a couple of years,
Not
unfortunately for
everything.
Haas.
Not everything, Sundaram. They had an
Let's talk about
opportunity
this
to
in
be
three
able to
years'
get
time.
they had the opportunity to get Hulk Hogan as a brand ambassador before the poor soul, hard to say poor soul, but before he passed away.
Really?
Real, can anyone be more real American than Hulk
Of
Hogan?
course.
They didn't. So they didn't do everything. They left out. You know Hulk Hogan, don't you, Kunal? I'm sure you know Hulk Hogan.
Dude, he was my era of WWE. Okay, just remember that. You are blessed that he
You mean
continued till your
WWF? You mean WWF?
WWF. Yeah, my era was WWF. Yeah, suddenly it's like what worldwide fund or whatever you call it, right? So
Well, now that we did do the Hulk Hogan cup your ears thing, let's listen to what the people are saying because Sarika says they definitely should not go with Christian GP slash racing team. I like that the fact you avoided Horny Horner Racing or something like that, or some weird something
you know
something.
what they should do? They should get Christian Horner, call it the Christian Horner Grand Prix Racing Team, powered by WhatsApp.
Would that be taking? So would Christian basically be stealing Toto's sponsor?
Exactly.
And then making sure that end-to-end encryption is actually a thing in WhatsApp, so his chats don't get leaked.
Nice, nice. So my only learning from the Red Bull case is that WhatsApp's not 100% encrypted now, is it? If you can,
But talking of Horner, the secretary in question who actually had the lawsuit on him has now joined Cadillac. In case that comes up on social media, you all know she's been around with the founders of the team and with Graham Loudon pretty much at all the races. She will be there, I'm assuming, at the race in COTA as well. But should we move on to what I know is actually one of our most popular segments on YouTube and Instagram, which is the stats segment?
and Trump would agree to that. Harsha said something earlier that Trump wouldn't agree. I think it's something about the American drivers. But this Harsha, I think everyone can agree to. Let's move on to stats. What have you got for us today, Mr. F1 Stats Guru?
All right. We are heading to the circuit of the Americas. And one of the very interesting things for me is pole position, because the pole sitter at COTA in the ground effect era has never gone on to stand on the podium even once. So 2022, 23, 24, never on the podium. But if it's a sprint, the pole sitter always turns out to win. So you'd like to put yourself on pole, at least for the sprint, if not for the Grand Prix. But talking about pole, McLaren have not taken pole in the last three rounds, which is quite the surprise this season. Looking at how well they've done this year and how much they've been dominating this year, you never see them not on pole for three consecutive races. And the last time that happened was a year and a half ago. So that's a bit surprising. Will either Oscar or Lando once again put themselves in P1? We'll have to wait and watch. But the other interesting thing like that we spoke about is Max Verstappen. He has a stellar record in the US. 6 wins across the US. If he wins one more race here this weekend, he'll be the most successful driver in all of the United States. He's always finished in the top five whenever he's raced stateside always finished in the top four whenever he's raced at Austin, even back in his Toro Rosso days. So if you think Red Bull had a good advantage, the stats also speak for themselves.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
But
it.
I'm gonna add one more on the pole sitter stat, and I remember this stat. P2 is actually led more races at the end of lap one in the last 7 or 8 years that Formula One's been racing here. So watch out for P2 taking the lead. I think Valtteri Bottas in 2019 was the only driver who kept the lead from pole position. So pole position is one of those dicey things around this race as well, around the circuit of the Americas as well. And my favorite stat of the year is Lance Stroll has maximum Q1 eliminations in 12,
Yeah.
right? Hulkenberg is next with 11, I believe. And I think Lance Stroll has also been out qualified by Fernando Alonso for 30 races in a row, right? And the other end of the spectrum in qualifying, Isaac Hadjar has most Q3 appearances for any midfield driver, with I believe 11 appearances that have happened. We're racing in Americas, which also means that Argentina is a big market. Franco Colapinto has now outqualified Pierre Gasly in the last 3 consecutive races, right? But along with Hulkenberg, Colapinto is the other driver who's yet to make a Q3 appearance. So lots of things to look out for even in qualifying, and I believe Racing Bulls has reached Q3 with both the cars in 4 out of the last 6 races, right? So interesting midfield movement. Since I spoke of Hulkenberg, one stat on Bortoleto. Bortoleto was finally out qualified by Hulkenberg in Singapore after a string of I think 8 races, and Bortoleto's been in Q3 4 times, and each time he has been in Q3, he has gone to score points. So that's a trend he has
Hmm.
continued as well. And I believe Sundaram, the pole sitter, has not won uh, at COTA since 2021, right? If I remember correctly.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And we can probably end this stat segment with a little bit of a Lewis Hamilton stat because he's on the verge of getting an unwanted record. I mean, yeah, after all the aura farming that they did at the start of the year, you would expect that Lewis Hamilton would be on the podium at least once, but it's been 18 races that he's completed with Ferrari and he's still not stood on the podium. Yeah, we can talk about the sprint top threes that he's had or the sprint win that he had in China, but Grand Prix podium specifically, 18 podiums, 18 races, still no podium. No other driver in Ferrari's history has gone so long without a podium. So Kota in that sense is going to be very, very crucial because then if he makes it to the podium, he will join Didier Pironi, who spent 19 races before the first podium with the team. But if he doesn't, he'll be the unfortunate record holder of that. Yeah,
Of all time.
all time.
All
No,
time.
no Ferrari driver has gone 19 races without a podium. Lewis Hamilton might become the first one to do that.
I am manifesting a Ferrari double podium this weekend. This race last year was their last one to finish in Formula One. I'm really hoping they're able to pull that in as well. A lot of it happened at turn one with Leclerc moving in from P4 when Verstappen Norris happened. So I'm manifesting one. But talking of legendary teams like Ferrari, the other legend in Formula One, Mercedes Benz, they actually tell us that this is the 500th race for Mercedes Benz as the official safety car of Formula One. This association started in 1996, Somil, and the first deployment of the Mercedes safety car was in the 1996 Belgian Grand Prix. Wow, can you imagine 500 races? That's just about 50% of, or less, just a little less than 50% of all the races in history that we've had the official racing car, safety car become a Mercedes Benz safety car. Wow.
And I love that even more so because there are other manufacturers in other top line motorsport who have their vehicle as a safety car but just don't have their team on the grid. I'm looking at you, BMW. Please bring a bike to MotoGP. It's insane. They've been safety car manufacturers for so long there, but just don't have a bike. But Kudos to Mercedes. They put their money where their mouth is. Time for us to put our money where our mouth is. Time for the predictions. This time, it'll need a bit. We need distinct predictions for sprint qualifying, sprint, race qualifying, and the race. So we need four different predictions. Let's go each session first, just so that it's more convenient for our producer Uttara to also chop up shots in case we get our predictions right, guys. I want you to think about those things. All right, sprint predictions. Sorry, sprint? Yeah, all right. Time for sprint
Sprint.
quali predictions. First up, I'm saying pole Max Verstappen.
Likewise. Max
I'm saying
Verstappen, pole.
both sessions.
Sprint quali. Sprint
Sprint,
quali.
sprint quali.
Sprint quali. I would say Oscar Piastri.
Okay.
Always Oscar for Kunal. Okay, interesting.
Always.
Even for pole, which by the
Even
way
for
has
pole.
not happened in what is it, 3 months now? Has he not taken pole?
Yeah.
He's
When was his last pole? Good question.
Great.
Oscar
Now-
Piastri's last pole position was in Sanford.
Oh yeah. And then before that it was also
Spain.
Spain.
Yeah.
That's like two in the last 8, 9?
10
Is it
races. Two in the last
the
10
last 10.
races.
Two
Yeah.
in the
Yeah,
last
last
10. So
10.
Kunal, you're going for an outlier for sprint
I'm going for an
qualifying.
outlier. I'm telling you, the real Oscar Piastri is going to stand up. He is going to realize this world championship is mine. I have to grab it with both hands. Papaya rules are off. McLaren has won the world championship, and I think elbows out at McLaren even more so. And especially after seeing what he went through in Singapore, he left the door open. B, he was, almost put into the wall. He's going to be like, dude, that's it. There are no walls in COTA, but I'm going to use all the gravel and the white lines I can. Abhijit is
Okay.
saying Lando Norris will take pole and win both the races. Wow, that'll be something in the Drivers' Championship.
That will be fun. You'll have to beat a few drivers for that. I love the
and this
prediction.
and this could be the turning point, right? If that does happen, the Drivers' Championship will spin on its head, and that's what we
Literally, yeah.
love.
And this is the weekend where it really can happen. Like 2 sessions, sprint and race. If there's a weekend for Lando to get maximum points and then really have it make a dent into Oscar's gap, it's this weekend. Come on, Lando. Okay, that brings us to sprint race. Sprint predictions. I'm saying if Max is on pole, Max wins. So I'm saying Max.
likewise.
I think the king of clean air, Oscar Piastri, if he's on pole, he's gonna win.
So
Also,
we're basically
lots of
coming to
drivers
a
don't take
conclusion.
risk in the sprint
Yeah.
race. So why are we like, yeah, especially okay?
Main race. Uh Qualifying. Who gets pole, guys? Oh. Ooh.
I'm going for Max Verstappen for the Grand Prix pole.
Same.
Lando Norris. Lando Norris for pole for the Grand Prix. Yeah.
Interesting. And what about the Grand Prix? Who's winning the race? I'm saying Oscar. I'm saying Oscar.
I would say Oscar as well.
Both. Everyone's going for Oscar. Then I need to choose someone else. Then there's no
Be McLaren.
option.
Choose Lando.
So safe option is Oscar. The sensible option is Oscar. I don't feel Lando's winning this from pole. I would have gone for Oscar as well. But for the sake of it, I'd say Charles Leclerc. Okay, go on.
Whoa, okay. Harsha has
Let's
actually
see.
put out a very, very detailed one. Sprint qualifying, Max, Norris, Piastri. Sprint race, Norris, Max, Piastri. Qualifying, Norris, race, Max, Norris, Piastri. Well, I know there are 3 drivers who Harsha cheers for, Max, Norris, and Piastri, and all 3 of them are going to score big this weekend. That could be an easy prediction as well. Who's going to score most points? The distribution of the most points will be Oscar, Lando, and Max this weekend, I guess.
Well, so we think, but we didn't imagine last year that both Ferraris would be 1 and 2. So I really think that Harsha's prediction sounds like the obvious, but it's not. It's really not. I think it'll need for the race to be clean as hell to be able to get that. And the races here normally are not that clean. It's
Not clean.
it'll be I mean, if this happens, I hope this happens with a fight. But Russell P3 in sprint qualifying, that's an interesting shout. Such a fun episode, though, guys. Now it's time to bring it to a natural end. It's like the final corner of the circuit of the Americas. Slow and steady, but brings you on to what is a great run up into turn number one. And that's what we're going to be facing throughout this week, a run up into the Grand Prix weekend, because it's going to be a tall hill to climb, a sprint race and the main race. Who can get on the top of Phil Hill and come out of turn one as the race leader? Because more often than not, they end up becoming the race winner here as well. And if it's Oscar, he could continue being the championship leader. We'll find out about all these stories and more as the weekend progresses. But thank you for watching this episode of the Inside Line F1 podcast. Will we be back? We will. Of course, we will. We will be back for the post race episode as well. Maybe not immediately, maybe on a Monday, because it's very late, but we will be back for sure. So make sure you subscribe on Instagram, YouTube, everywhere. But final comment.
Best thing for
Final comment.
championship would be if Lando clean sweeps or McLaren's crash and Max clean sweeps. Yeah, but I don't want it to be decided like that, Abhijit. Even though, I mean, that's racing. But if Lando crashes, then I think Oscar will be asked to crash as well.
And so if
Okay.
Lando's asked to end this episode, we'll, as Oscar, have to end this episode too. Time to go, guys. Team orders have come. We'll have to cut this short. Take care, everyone. We'll catch